When you hear the word astrology, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably our daily sun sign horoscope, right? But what if I told you that's like looking at a single wrench and calling it a mechanic's garage? Today, we're prying open the entire astrologer's toolkit to explore a whole range of methods that go way, way beyond just predicting your day. And we're going to start with a birthday wish you've probably heard a million times.
Think about it. How many times have you said it or had it said to you, "Many happy returns"? It's just what you say on a birthday. But have you ever actually paused and thought, what is returning? Well, it turns out this super common phrase has a really specific astrological meaning, and it's the very first tool we're pulling out of the kit.
So here's what's in the toolkit for today. We're going to start with how astrology creates a personal forecast for your year. Then we'll dive into how it decodes relationships. After that, we'll uncover a wild connection between the planets and our ideas about memory itself. And finally, we'll zoom way out to see how these same tools are used to forecast world events.
All right, let's dive right back into that birthday wish. The very first tool we're looking at is a technique that gives you a surprisingly detailed forecast for your entire year. And it all kicks off right around your birthday.
And here's the answer. It's called a solar return. Basically, it's a special astrological chart that's cast for the exact moment the sun gets back to the same spot in the sky it was in when you were born. That's the return in Many Happy Returns. It acts like a snapshot, giving you the major themes and focus for the entire year ahead.
And get this isn't some new age trend. We're talking about a technique with some serious history. This quote is about Johannes Kepler, the groundbreaking 17th century astronomer who gave us the laws of planetary motion. And yeah, he was doing his birthday chart every single year. Astrologers like William Lilly were writing entire books about this stuff back in the 1600s, based on knowledge that goes all the way back to ancient Greece.
Okay, but how does this actually play out in a real person's life? Let's take a look at this case study of astrologer Janie Stubbs. She was going through a really tough time, a big breakup. Her solar return chart for that year showed this major clash between her career goals and her need for a safe, stable home. Now, her natural instinct was to just bury herself in work, but the chart was practically screaming that the real lesson of the year was about building a foundation. She kind of ignored it and almost ended up homeless. That's what it took for her to realize the chart was pointing to the most critical thing she needed to deal with.
And that's the key takeaway here. The solar return isn't about predicting, you will meet a tall, dark stranger. It's more about revealing the big theme for your year. It shows you where life is asking you to put your energy, so you can work with the flow instead of fighting against it.
Okay, so we've looked at our own personal journey. Now let's grab the next tool from the kit. This one is all about decoding our connections with other people. Yep, we're talking about the astrology of relationships.
So how do astrologers analyze relationships? Well, there's this really cool technique called synastry. It's where you literally lay one person's birth chart right on top of another's, just like you see here. And for our example, we've got one of the most famously chaotic and weirdly successful couples in rock history, Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne. Let's see what their combined chart tells us.
First off, if you just look at them as individuals, their charts are like night and day. Ozzy's chart screams passionate, reckless, chaotic Sagittarian energy. Sharon's, on the other hand, shows a strategic, responsible Libran who is used to carrying heavy burdens for others. So you've got two fundamentally different people right from the get-go.
But the real magic happens when you put those charts together. You can literally see the push and pull of their entire relationship. The strengths? Oh yeah, there's a super passionate attraction, a really deep bond, and a lot of empathy. But the challenges are just as strong. We're talking cross boundaries, total confusion, and a huge potential for the kind of conflict they became famous for.
And that right there is the whole story in a nutshell. It points to a real, true love match, but one where Sharon's focused, guiding nature was absolutely essential in helping Ozzy navigate his own chaos. The synastry chart shows exactly what made them so magnetic and so explosive, all at the same time.
All right, for our next tool, we're going to shift gears a bit. We're moving from the personal to the philosophical and diving deep into how planets, especially Mercury, have shaped how we even think about, well, thinking. It's a trip.
So in astrology, Mercury is the planet of communication, of intellect, of the quick-thinking mind. And you know who else is ruled by Mercury? The jester. As you see in this old woodcut, these were people who literally had to live by their wits. And this link between a planet and a concept like wit goes back, way back.
This is where it gets really wild. Way back, ancient philosophers like Plato were trying to figure out how memory works, and one of their big ideas was something called the wax theory of memory. They imagine the mind as a block of wax and believe that everything we experience gets impressed onto it, and the quality of your own personal mind wax determined how smart you were.
And they didn't just stop there. Oh no, they got super specific. If your mental wax was too soft, you'd be forgetful or soft in the head. If it was too hard, you'd be slow to learn. If you didn't have any wax, well, you were empty-headed. The goal was to have pure, refined wax, which meant you could make clear impressions and learn things quickly.
Okay, now this is the part that just blows my mind. This ancient idea, it's still completely alive, hiding in plain sight in the words we use every single day. When you talk about making a good impression on someone or being impressed by an idea, you are literally using a metaphor that's thousands of years old. And phrases like soft in the head or being at your wit's end, they're direct echoes of these ancient ideas about the mind. So cool.
So we've gone from a single year to a relationship to the very words we speak. Now we're going to zoom all the way out with our fourth tool, the big and sometimes controversial world of forecasting major public and political events. This is known as mundane astrology.
And when you talk about this kind of astrology, you pretty much have to mention Old Moore's Almanac. I mean, this thing is an institution. It was founded way back in the 18th century, and for over 300 years, it's been publishing astrological forecasts on everything from the weather to global politics. And believe it or not, it's still going strong.
So to get a sense of how this is supposed to work in practice, let's just look at the timeline for a very specific forecast they made about the 2025 U.S. presidential inauguration. The almanac says its forecast was written in September of 2023. It was then published and released to the public in June 2024. That's well before the election in November, which is key to it being a genuine prediction.
And this is the actual quote from that 2025 edition, referring to the election. It says that one of the charts suggests that progressivism and liberal values may actually be unpopular, and traditional conservative values preferred. Now, the source material we are drawing from for this explainer presents this prediction as a good call and interprets it as a successful forecast of a Donald Trump victory, made more than a year before the event.
So, wow, from the deeply personal to the massively political, it's pretty clear that astrology is so much more than just your sun sign, right? It's really a whole collection of different tools, and each one has its own purpose and its own deep history.
So let's just quickly run through the amazing tools we've unpacked today. We saw solar returns, which can give you the main theme for your year. We looked at synastry for getting under the hood of a relationship. We explored planetary archetypes to see how they've shaped our very thoughts, and we saw how mundane astrology is used to look at the bigger picture of world events.
At the end of the day, it seems like these tools aren't really just about fortune telling. They're more like a framework, a language of symbols and cycles that can help us make sense of things. Whether that's making sense of ourselves, our partners, or the world around us, it offers a totally different lens to look through. Which kind of leaves you with one last question to chew on. If your life is a story, could astrology be one way of reading the chapter summary?